Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. This is part 3 of us looking at Fufafa, and pretty much we're going to go into the chases and the objects and the fast forces, so we're going to wrap that up here. We like to thank you for staying with us and going through all the parts and us doing a thorough deep dive into this set. So, yeah, we really appreciate that. All right. Let's talk about number 62, Dr. Doom. Let's start here. Wow. All right. So, Many Faces of Doom, we're just going to reference that. They're going to be a sideline character. You can just swap in, swap out. Okay, so there's that. So we have the time platform. Dr. Doom may start the game with Fufafa time platform equipped. When he uses its effect to choose to return to his starting area, he isn't dealt the one unavoidable damage. So that's pretty cool. I want that treasure. Free, once per game. Remove a Fufafa time platform equipped to Dr. Doom from the game. If you do, equip Dr. Doom with the equipment of 10 points or less on an opponent's force on the map or equipped to one of their characters. That's pretty good. Learn from the past. At the beginning of the game, roll 2d6s and place the result on this card. If Dr. Doom is 150, roll 3d6s instead. Whenever any attack roll is made, you may replace a d6 in the roll with a d6 from this card. Alright.
So
this is sort of strong. This is really, really strong.
Well, let's touch on that because there's interpretations of how this works, and no one's 100% sure on which one it is, right? Option number 1, which, if you notice, it doesn't say anything about removing the die from the card, which every single dice manipulator up until this point has
says that. Mm-hmm.
So, and they even did it in this set with Adolf Impossible. He actually says remove the card. So you can't necessarily just think it's an oversight. Like, it doesn't seem. It seems like they intended to put it there. Maybe they screwed up. Who knows? But here's the question, right? And we're waiting to kind of hear what the rules teams decide. Option number 1 is it gets removed from the card, in which case it works like every dice manipulator, except for he doesn't get them back.
Yeah, he doesn't get them back.
So I'm inclined to think that that's probably not the intent.
Mm-hmm.
Option number 2 is he just keeps using the same dice over and over again to replace people's numbers, which seems like it could be the intent. Or option number 3, which a lot of people are saying is what happens, is that the dice on the card replaces the die that he's replacing, and the die that just got replaced goes to the card, which, because of the word replace, it's possible, but I see nothing else to indicate that would be how it works. But I've heard good arguments for all 3, and I'm kind of curious to see what the rules team comes back with. Either way, anything but the die goes away is very strong.
Yeah.
And even the die going away, like getting 2 of them at 75 points, it's not that great, but it's alright.
Oh, okay.
I'm inclined to think it's one of the... I think the dice stay. And I think that he's just better at, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to check that out. So if we're talking overall, there's a couple of key things that I think are really big deals. The first is that you're able to just replace dice. I think that's the huge thing. Second is being able to start with the time platform attached. The third is just saying, hey, guess what? That equipment that you were using there, it's mine now. and there's nothing that you can do about it, opposing character. I think that is a ridiculous change that can create a huge problem for a lot of different teams if they're not paying attention to it properly, from my perspective, because there are too many different teams that I see that are hyper dependent on that piece of equipment being there, and them getting a hold of that equipment no matter what. And if they fail to get that equipment, they're pretty much doomed. And the fact that you could just come in and say, nope, that's mine now. Even if you do get it before you pop off, it's mine. And I think that's a really heavy balancing factor with this Dune. So, what's your thoughts?
Well, I laughed when you said that they were doomed if they didn't get the equipment. But I agree. I think it's really, really strong. Interestingly enough, there is one way to keep the equipment away from Doom with that effect, and that's to pick it up but not equip it, because at that point it's neither on the map nor is it equipped. So that is the only way to keep it away from him. So he's one of the Dooms that if you're gonna run him, I feel like you have to start with him. You don't want to switch into him. Because you definitely want that dice effect.
Mm-hmm.
His dial is not impressive. Like 75 points for phasing, 11 attack, energy explosion, 18 invuln, 3 damage outwit, 6 range. Like, it's nothing to write home about. So it's his other effects that really, really bring a lot out of him. But what I do like is you can start with him, swap out, and then you're still giving the time platform to someone else. Or if you keep him in, you got the dice effect. I think that he's a great leader, and I look forward to finding out what the official ruling on the dice effect is, because that's going to greatly impact his price point and also his utility just as a piece.
Yeah. So I gotta say, like, just there's just so much with this Doom where to me, you're paying the 75 points for utility. I don't really see you paying 150 in competitive. Not with him having the time platform attached. There's in the inconsistency of being unable. The best way I can say it, being unable to guarantee that your opponent's going to have equipment that's just going to make Doom better as an attacker. So I still think he's like, hey, if you get him, you're like, great. Like, he is not bad. Is he on the top of my list of looking at things? No, but when we're looking at all of these chases, they're pretty much like anti-meta disruptors is what I'm seeing.
I will say this. The ruling on that dice determines if he's just decent or if he's absolutely busted godly, because if the dice stay on the card, whether it be that they get swapped out or you keep the same ones, and he's doing that all game, he now has reached a point where he's like better than Q, because you have 2 options at any given point in time, and he's only 75 points and it's global. So if that's the way it goes, he's like a $300 piece. If that's not the way he goes, he's an expensive piece, but he's not. He's
not worth that much.
Yeah, you're not going to sell a kidney to buy him.
Right. And we at Starting Over Podcast do not endorse you selling your organs for heroclix. Don't do that. So
You got anything?
I think he is. He might be muted. He's a little bit occupied. So let's go to Prisoner of Planet Doom. This dude. This is the Doom for me. Like, this is the Doom that I like. Prisoner of Planet Doom. The many faces of Doom. He has that. Doom takes what he wants. Whenever prisoner of planet Doom KOs an opposing character after resolutions, choose one. Choose a standard power that character on that character's card. Prisoner of Planet Doom can use the chosen power this game, or choose a combat value. Prisoner of Planet Doom modifies the chosen combat value by +1 this game. Prisoner of Planet Doom, that's the man. And going forward, I see him just getting more stupid. He can be the Pog Slayer. He can be the whatchamacallit, the Sidekick Slayer, and just all of a sudden get powered up with tons of stats and abilities and other things. And I think that's where he starts just to become ridiculous. Like, all the things Mahaz had back in the day, like, this is just better. This is better than Mahaz's. And for people who don't know that figure, you just go look it up. Just go look it up. All right.
So let's be real here. This next trait is where it gets so stupid.
Yeah.
The world of my making yet, or not of my making yet, of my design.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go ahead and read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. At the beginning of the game, if you are not the first player, roll a d6. On a 3 through 4, first player skips their first turn. 5 through 6, first player skips their first turn, and this game, Prisoner of Planet Doom may choose both options, or his Doom takes what he wants trait.
Yeah.
It's so silly. And then he's got that steel energy, but with closer range attacks. Down his entire dial minus his very first click of his 150 point.
Mm-hmm.
He's just so good. He's so freaking good. When you're killing Pogs, because they don't have a card, you're not going to be able to choose a power, but you can choose a combat value. So, I mean, this guy he just keeps building and building. And then it was brought to my attention by PJ that even when you do the switch out, because if you started the game with him in, because he was there when the trigger takes place, even if you switch him out, you still get the trigger for his make you skip a turn. So if you're going second, 66% of the time, the first player doesn't get their first turn.
That and see, and this is where I start looking at like the overall utility of this figure, and he just does so much. And then he has like Doom will prevail his entire dial, which he has steel energy with close or range. Like this is like after the rules changes. Like, this Doom becomes a beast, like a straight beast. Is he the toughest, most endurant character? No, but at 75 points, 8 range, perplex, modify stats when he starts KOing people. Like, he will pop off. Like, the moment he KOs like his first sidekick, it's like, I'm a 19 now. Go deal with that. And I think he just picks up so much speed. But yeah, like I'm a big fan of Prisoner of Planet Doom. So let's go ahead, move to Lord Doom himself. And let's talk about him, because I think Lord Doom is the first character where you can actually debate playing him at 150. So,
I would play Prisoner of Planet Doom at 150.
Oh, you would?
Oh, yeah. Like, full dial of healing, keep stacking. I could totally see playing Prisoner of Planet Doom at 150.
Okay. Here we go. All right, so Lord Doom. Improved movement hindering. This character can move through blocking terrain immediately after movement resolves. Destroy all blocking terrain. He's on it. The many faces of Doom. At the beginning of the game, you may choose a starting line of equal points on a character from your sideline. That also has this trait if you do replace that character. Yep. Sorry. Ending the revolution. If an opponent's force has more characters than your force, opposing characters can't generate bystanders. You can't outrun Doom. Charge, but doesn't have speed. Doom laughs at your feeble attacks. Invulnerability. Opposing characters attacking Lord Doom modify attack and damage by -1. Lord Doom with the tablets, the emotional modifier is dumb. It's so dumb. Oh, you have a -2 attack. Go.
And a -1 damage.
Yeah, and you have a -1 damage. Go suck that. Good luck killing Doom.
Well, so a couple things about him. First thing to note, he is outwittable.
Yes.
And they did combine that invuln power with the reducing. So it's 1 power to outwit. Personally, I like this Doom better at 75 than I do 150, though I can see the argument for playing him higher. I feel like this Doom is basically a little mini Juggernaut. Like, all of the cool things Juggernaut does, Doom kind of does them too. Like,
I think
charges.
Doom does it better because he doesn't have to be in a straight line.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is he does it, but he does that part better. He doesn't have quite the same durability level that Juggernaut does, but he's up there. But I mean, you're doing it for 75 points, and the whole like taking away fog generation, it's great. Destroys blocking is great. The only thing I would say is this is not a Doom that I'm going to start with. This is a Doom I'm going to swap into.
Fair. That's more than fair. I don't think that you're like. Let me phrase this. There are several teams that I can see a Doom like that doing well. Like and.
Oh, yeah. He's 100% playable. I just feel like you want to trigger one of the other Doom effects to start the game. That's all.
Okay. All right. So let's go over to Dr. Doom, the Sorcerer Supreme. Let's go through it. The world will always have a Sorcerer Supreme. When an opposing character is turned to its starting click this game, after resolutions, roll d6 and heal Dr. Doom, the Sorcerer Supreme, equal to half of the result. Ooh, so there goes Widow and Hulk. Like,
well, I mean, Widow doesn't always end up back on her starting click, but the thing about this is, like, this will happen from healing. This can happen from a lot of different results, because it doesn't say how. It just says when turn.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to get there. I mean, technically, you can potentially even be doing it if you've got like a dial swapping mechanic where it's like, turn Spider-Man to this dial, now turn him back to this dial. Oh, hey, he just turned to a starting click. Oop.
Yeah.
All in all, I think it's an okay. Like, it's one of those things where when it works, it'll work and it'll be nice, but it's not something you're going to see all the time. It's nice when it happens.
Yeah, I also like the changing the phase once per attack. And again, it says once per attack, and I think combining him with I think this is where he becomes stupid. You combine him with the Watu.
Well, it's not. It's specifically not.
Oh no, because it's prop.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he's actually decent at fighting against two Watus because he doesn't trigger Watus.
He doesn't trigger Watu. Yeah. And it's per attack, so it can go off multiple times in a turn.
Yeah. He's effectively like a super prob in that you can prob a bunch of people, which is nice. So again, 8 range, running shot, Psy Blast. This is one that I don't think I ever play at 150. I only see myself playing him at 75. Mystics, Minions of Doom, that's all good. So he's got a lot of like little weird ways to heal himself. He doesn't get any of that special defense power on his 75, so he's just the super senses the whole way down. He's a nice figure. He's one that you swap into. He's not one that you start on because he doesn't have any like beginning of the game trigger effect. But if you're going to be in a range fight and you want to have a bunch of probbing going on or a bunch of rerolling going on, by all means, like this is a great Doom to put in.
Yeah. So, next up is Dr. Thing. Dr. Thing has by far one of the cooler sculpts. Many faces of Doom, completely expected and planned for. When revealing forces, choose an opposing sideline game element. If Dr. Thing is on his starting click, the chosen sideline game element can't be brought into the game.
So
wow,
that's really good. It helps against the Doom mirror match. It helps against Fantastic Four swaps. In the world of ID cards, it was actually really helpful. So, like Golden Age will see some play. Or, I mean, even if you just wanted to keep him in and somehow keep him on a stop click, you could stop people from being able to bring in
their own
alert makers.
Or their own Doom.
Well, yeah, he definitely helps in the mirror match.
Yeah, and then the I think, and also it stops the ally mechanic.
No, because it just stops them from bringing them into the game. It doesn't stop them from doing whatever else they do.
No, because it just says choose an opposing sideline game element.
Keep reading.
Yep, the chosen sideline game element can be brought into the game. Oh, yeah, sorry, my apologies. Yep. All right, so I as a combat piece, yeah, like I don't like him. To me, he's a character that swaps out.
So yeah. I think you do pretty much only use him for the swap, but objectively, if they shoot at him, he's only going to take 1 damage, and then you're going to place him next to him, and he's got plasticity. So, I mean, there's ways where you can make him do more, but yeah, I think, honestly, the big thing is just swapping him out and shutting down the mirror match.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Doom.
So of the chases, this one's probably my favorite.
Okay.
He's another one that you bring in instead of start with. He's got robot keyword, ruler, Latveria, future, so he's got some good keywords. Like you could just play him on a robot team and you'd be fine, right? But he's got a trait that gives him flurry down his entire dial, and it also lets him just do power action, make 3 close attacks. And then each time he hits with a close attack, you modify target's defense -1. And then the way it's broken up, it works with both his flurry, his 3 close attacks, and then just even in general, like if he just was there, it just worked with a vanilla attack too. He's got charge, he's got blades, he's got impervious 4 damage. I like him at 75, by the way. But I could totally see myself putting a soul gem on him and playing him at 150. The big thing with him, though, is he makes it to where your opponent's force can't make more costed actions each turn than 1 per every 100 points of the build total. So you're going to get 3 costed actions. I don't even care if it's from autonomous. You're going to get 3 costed actions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really, really strong.
To a degree, it actually, I know this sounds really bad when I say this, it actually balances out Krakoan Revival for your opponent just slightly. Because then they have to start picking the support pogs and they just can't go in and start slaying all the rest of your stuff.
It's fair, but I mean, how often are we playing Doom on a Krakoan or
No,
Valerian?
I understand. I'm just saying is like it was a thought that did go through my mind um, about how that would happen. But yeah, so I wonder what storyline the sculpt came from because that sounds very interesting on how that happened. All right, next up is Valeria Von Doom. And this is full cape and colors. This is Valeria Megan Von Doom. Uh, Latveria mystical ruler scientist again. I wonder when did this happen? First off, you have smoke and mirror shape change, but succeeds on 4 through 6, which I think is pretty nice. When Valeria Von Doom uses it and succeeds after resolution, choose one. Place her X squares away from her current square while X is the result, or deal the attacker damage equal to half the result protected outwit. Yikes. Like, that's pretty strong to deal with. You are not worthy of my army. When opposing character that wasn't on their starting force misses after resolution, give it an action token. If that character has a Thomas symbol instead, KO it. Ouch. Yikes. Sidestep stealth for its lurking in the distance. It needs some mobility. But so, Tom, what's your thoughts? I think this is okay.
Honestly, I don't like this one. This is the only one of the set I haven't bothered to go out and get. So the shape change power is strong. Like there's no arguing there, right? The fact that you roll a 4, 5, or 6, you're going to be dealing either 2 or 3 damage to any opponent that attacks you is sweet, or just repositioning to get out of harm's way is fine. All of that seems fine. The fact that it's protected outwit is great. You can't just easily strip it away. But the figure doesn't do anything past that, right? Like, so the character's not on the starting force trait, right? So other Dooms and Fantastic Four swaps, if they miss her, they get an action token, right? But the problem is it doesn't key off of her shape change. So half the time they're not going to be able to go after her in the first place, so that it doesn't work the way it doesn't have the synergy and that power with the other power, right? Like if it triggered off the shape change, or if she had the super senses doing that as opposed to a shape change doing that, that would be fine. Her top dial senses is nice because it does give you a little bit more chance of making a miss when they do get through your shape change. Again, it's 75 points of like, what are you actually doing other than making people not want to attack you? Like, she's not overtly threatening in and of herself. I'm sure someone will figure out something, but just as it sits, I feel like she's very ignorable.
She doesn't have any really offensive punch that the other Dooms have. And
Yeah.
I think to a degree, her main purpose is to punish people for swapping in characters or bringing in characters that didn't start on your force. But to a degree, the other like Dooms sort of do that better. Now, if you're talking about KOing autonomous symbols characters,
I mean, that's literally going to be a couple of pogs. Like, none of the other stuff that swaps in as autonomous. And they have to be something that's swapped in.
and they have to miss.
Yeah, so like that's a lot to ask for, because first they have to get through the shape change. Which, granted, you might just be killing them then, so maybe it's fine. But again, the hardest problem for me is just, why am I attacking her? Like, what's the point, right? Like, she can't really do much. Like, she's annoying, but I imagine there's a much higher threat risk somewhere else on your team that I need to deal with before I deal with a 10 attack, 3 damage figure.
Yeah.
Right? So I
Yeah.
feel like she, like in a world of ID cards, she might have been top tier meta.
Oh, yeah. In a World ID card, she would have been a very strong character.
Yeah,
Definitely, because she would have been able to buff plus stay alive mostly in doing so.
yeah. Like if you're playing bronze, she's probably a lot better. But in modern, I think she's almost unplayable. In comparison to the rest of the set.
Yeah.
Like I don't see myself bringing her in.
All right, let's go over to Doom, the Annihilating Conqueror. The many faces of Doom, once again, Conqueror of Timelines. During force construction, friendly characters with the cosmic future and past keywords gain the Latveria keyword. Congratulations. We now can fit Bishop onto our Latveria team. Uh, and and we also can put in Dr. Fates as well, so that we have a bazillion actions to do
Well,
all
don't
the
forget
shit.
Dark Phoenix too.
Oh, in Dark
The
Phoenix.
Latveria.
Welcome to Latveria, Dark Phoenix Colossal Retails, as I send out my Dr. Fates to go die for the cause. Yeah, in the current rules environment, I think this one, if we were seeing tournaments now, this one has the largest potential to have an immediate splash in the competitive scene if we were seeing large tournaments, because you would see the account spam, you would see the retail spam, you would see the action spam, you would see a ton of options, and then a person swapping over to the Dune that they need to continue whatever offense they want to do. And I just see that as the more ridiculous part of this Dune.
Um, yeah, he's for me, like sometimes you're gonna want to keep him in because of Pulse Wave, right?
Right.
And getting the power cosmic and all the other weird little things that he can do. But like he's at the very least, he is probably the Doom that you're going to see doing the initial swap out, just because like he fixes so many teams and makes Latveria so much stronger. So you start him, like he's one of 4 starter Dooms, right? So you've got DJ Doom, you've got him, you've got Doctor Thing, and then you've got Prisoner Doom, and those are like the 4 that you actually consider starting with, and then the others are all swap into.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really a big fan of anyone that modifies keywords. So I like him. He was one of my top ones.
Yeah. He also has the Fall 4 at the beginning of the game. Opposing characters was all keywords not printed on their cards. If +1 keywords were lost this way, Doom, the Annihilating Conqueror has Cosmic Energy, team ability this game. And it becomes an issue because this is the anti-Spider-Man piece. And this just throws the huge wrench into the Spider-Man family. And also to another Doom doing this. And again, we're fully aware that the Dooms shut the other... There's a Doom to shut another Doom down, which is sort of hilarious. But just overall, when we're analyzing the setup, I think this one is probably going to be the most popular Doom in the long run. All right.
Yeah, like he's gonna see a lot of builds.
Yeah.
All right, you want to do the objects first, or do you want to do the legacy cards?
Let's go ahead and just look at the legacy cards real quick, and we'll just go over them really quickly. So first up is Invisible Woman from Ultimates way back in the day. With the Ultimates TA. Sorry. Anyway.
Oh no, this is the LE.
Oh, sorry. That is the LE. My bad. You're right. I'm looking. Yep. Never mind. I was wrong. The LE. I can make anything invisible free. Choose a character within range and line of fire this turn. That character doesn't block lines of fire. That's interesting. That can be potentially strong, um, because either for friendly or opposing. Because if someone's like, "Well, I'm blocking line of fire," and now they're turned invisible, then the line of fire is free.
Yep. And I mean, it's a quirky, like situational power, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still really cool. And it synergizes well with her TK. Like I feel like it was a very well thought out little piece, and I appreciate that
Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of times we get them where they're kind of like half baked. You know, 19 defense for 45 points is really good. Barrier's great. TK's great. Outwit's great. Like everything she does is really good. She's got improved targeting, hindering because of the ultimates. Like I don't have a bad thing to say about the figure. Like, you know, she's a very well thought out little piece.
yeah. Next up is Zavin. So this is our first legacy figure with swappable fun dials here. One power set at a time. For each turn, Zavin's dial to another click. Noting their current click. If you do at the end of your turn, return them to the noted click. So this is our proto cosmic Black Panther right here. Super Scroll and Training. Zavin can use the standard powers printed on their card for lower clicks numbers. If Zavin turn their dial this turn and misses all targets of an attack, they cannot turn their dial back to their noted click for the rest of the turn, and can use super senses until your next turn. What do you think of the Zavin here?
All right. So, I mean, objectively, he's got the scrolls TA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you end up doing is you probably give him something to give him shape change, whether it be the remaker or whatever, and that helps. But that 16 is really hard to overcome for 75 points. I do find it really, really interesting. So he can use the standard powers printed on their card for lower click numbers. So he gets everything backwards, right? So like if you're on the last click, you have everything before that, which is kind of cool. I don't know. He's wonky. Where I think he probably shines is he does have a lot of utility. I like the idea of putting the ultimate nullifier on him, turning him to his second click or whatever, and then pick 3 or 4 damage and roll for it. And if it doesn't go well for you, that's fine. You're going to go back to click 1. So
yeah,
I also like the fact that you could be at the end of your dial, turn all the way to click 1, make an attack and miss, and just stay on click 1, and that feels good too. He's a fun piece. He's not a competitive piece, I don't think, but I like him all the same. And I really just like the legacy mechanic in general. I think that them doing that was a really good thing.
yeah. I am not super sold on Zavin, but I do like the fact that if you mess up, you got super senses. You're not completely, up the creek. I think, unfortunately, at 75 points, he doesn't carry. He doesn't support, like, this is one of those figures that the game completely lost him. Like, without a stronger trait, he's not that viable anymore. And I think that's something that if we're going back and looking at other legacy characters, or if Wizkids goes back and looks at more legacy characters in the future, the first thing that they need to say is, like, if their stats don't match up, can we amp up their trait? So
they actually did buff his trait significantly. So like if you are on click 5, he has all the powers that precede it, right? So he has the perplex, he has the ESD, he has the shape change. Like, granted, it's not super. They don't synergize super well, but like after the rules change, that click 5, he'll be an 11 for 3, running shots. So it's not that bad. And then when he takes a hit, he's actually better than advertised. Because like, so let's say he takes 3 damage, right? After that, he's going to pick up Shape Change. Um, so if he's on Quick 4, because you shot him for 10, with 3 damage, he's on Quick 4. Now he's a 17 reflexes, but he has toughness and invuln and Shape Change. So like, he's kind of wonky on how he works, but they definitely gave him a significant upgrade. I just don't know if it's enough.
Yeah.
But all of them actually have a significant upgrade.
Yeah. All right. So next up is She-Hulk. This one, I don't know how I feel about this one. So first and foremost, the stats are not comparable for like the average things that we're dealing with now. But we do see a couple of key things with the trait. I'm not Prime worthy. I'll show you Prime worthy. She-Hulk and adjacent friendly characters modify attack by +1 when attacking a Prime character. That to me is a little bit, but okay. She-Hulk and adjacent friendly characters take a maximum of 1 damage from Prime characters. That, in dealing with the Batman shenanigans, matters.
Dealing with stuff like Punisher War Machine that's coming in and just blasting the fire out of your teams.
Yeah. So that in and of itself, I like. File for a change of venue. If She-Hulk isn't part of a theme team the first time this game, you wouldn't win roll for first player. You may roll again and add 1 to the result. So I like that. If you really are trying to go first, you get a second chance, and you get a bow.
You have to not be part of a theme, right?
Right.
So I think like where I might try this out is I think I might put her on a team with the Poison Ivy.
Are we still talking about the Poison Ivy with the vine traps?
Well, the one from the Ellie that just came out a few months back, she gives you +3 to your map roll.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a theme team. So I'll take a +3, and then if that doesn't, re-roll it for a +4, and we'll see what happens. So I think that's kind of funny. Other than that, like, she's worth swapping on a Fantastic Four build, or even on a like, even if you didn't do a full Fantastic Four, like you did a non-theme, but you still had the swap mechanic built into it, she's worth considering for that Prime trait. And then, the Charge Flurry destroys blocking isn't bad either. And neither is Willpower and Complex, so...
Yeah.
75, I think she's got a lot to her. I don't think you ever play her at top dial.
Gosh. I think she's interesting. I want to see her on a well-designed team and in action before I completely discount her. But I think we're seeing a lot of stuff where she has the ability in the upcoming meta to actually be decent. And that's the part where I'm like, wow, I have the ability to take tokens off myself. I can perplex myself. I could charge flurry. I take less damage from primes, but I also can get +1 attack for myself and my allies. Like, there's a lot. Like, I feel like this character got the workaround that it deserved. Like, it feels closer to what it should be. Is it perfect? No. Is it, I feel like it still feels like maybe like an uncommon or a rare strength character. Not like...
Legitimately, she is an uncommon character, so...
Yeah. Yeah, but for an uncommon, like, I think for Pauper, like, she's a beast. Like, that can change a game. Sort of, yeah. Because you won't get the first trade off in Pauper. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and move to Morg.
Just kind of like, they gave him a little bit of an upgrade, but but it's not enough to make him viable. He's 165 points is just too much.
Okay. All right. Then we have Mr. Fantastic. He comes back in and give me a moment. I'm having a minor glitch with realms here. All right, so we have Mr. Fantastic, and we have find a way to save my family when a friendly character with Fantastic Four keyword would be KO'd. Roll a d6, 5 through 6, turn that character to its last non-KO click. Like this is huge with Herbie. I'll say Kirby with Herbie, because you have the ability to rescue most of the sidekicks. You have 2 saving rolls for them. Marvel's First Family, unique modifier. When Mr. Fantastic heals from the Fantastic Four, team ability, after resolutions, remove an action token and modify Mr. Fantastic's combat values by +1 until the end of your next turn. So that's not too great, but it does work pretty well with most of the sidekicks dying. Stretch.
That's one of the 2 major buffs that they gave him. He originally didn't have that at all. So that's one of the buffs that they gave him.
Yeah. So then we have Stretch, Power, Giant Reach 10, and make a close combat attack. This is awesome. Like with the buffs and everything else, like this is where I feel like this pops off. Go ahead.
This was the other buff. This used to be a double power action on him, I believe. So the fact that it's now just a regular power action is actually a pretty significant buff.
Right. Tactical Genius, Leadership, Outwit, but may use it twice if an opposing character is adjacent to a friendly character with the Fantastic Four keyword. So, not as useful, but the fact that I can use Leadership potentially twice to get a chance to either remove 2 tokens or a second chance to remove a token off, that's not bad. So, do you think this is worth it, Tom, or no?
Probably not. I think, honestly, I don't really see him seeing any real competitive play. But I think he's a very fun piece. I'd like to have him, but he's not going to have any impact on the meta, I don't think.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Thing. Marvel's First Family, unique modifier. When the Thing heals from the Fantastic Four team ability, after resolution, remove an action token and modify Thing's combat values by +1 until the end of your next turn, which is pretty cool. Again, it's no different than Mr. Fantastic. Had enough clobbering yet. Sidestep. Close combat expert. When an opposing character takes damage from Thing's close attack after resolutions, choose one. Deal that character 1 unavoidable damage, or make a close attack targeting that character. I remember this piece.
Yeah, he got a pretty significant buff. He was from Galactic Guardians.
Yeah. He was the core of the Fantastic Four team back then because of that special power.
Yeah. So back then, your opponent actually had to choose. Now you get to choose.
And I think also you didn't have sidestep either.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have sidestep.
You didn't have sidestep, yeah.
And I want to say the close combat expert was added in, but I could be wrong.
I think that's probably added in there too.
But I mean, so we make him an 11 for 5 with the new rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
He charges up, he hits you, and then he can just choose to keep doing it. I really like that. Or if you give him flurry with Ock Arms or something, like there's some cool shenanigans here. Honestly, I don't see myself playing him on the majority of builds, but I might try to find a way to get him into the Fantastic Four swap build. Because if you face a tent pole, like he can grind through even the beefiest of tent poles. And then there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. So, like, this one actually has some potential, so that has some note there. Let's go to Morgan Le Fay, because I think Old Girl probably got the best of the remakes.
So she got some interesting stuff because like some of it's buffs and some of it's actually nerfs. Most of it's buffs though. So they knocked on. She has a 100-point dial, right? And a 50. The 50 never existed before.
The 50, I was gonna say that never existed before.
And the 100 used to be 122, so they just shaved 22 points off the top. Now she had Minions of Doom back in the day. And it was the old Minions of Doom that made her a wild card. So the new Minions of Doom isn't quite as good, but they just straight up just gave her Mystics, so they added that on. So yeah, like you're gonna play her at 50. She's gonna be a prob, a perplex, and she's gonna do some keyword manipulating and like.
She's functionally Scarlet Witch. She's Chaos War Scarlet Witch to almost to a degree.
Well, plus with a modifier on keywords, like adding Avengers to Latveria. So, you know, now your shifting focus widows can hang out with your dooms.
Right. And sort of bringing it all together. But let's look at the alternate Avengers. Is when establishing theme teams, you may treat Avengers in Latveria as a single keyword. That is pretty good. And I'm wondering how this will warp things when you have game effects that target Avengers. Would that work on Latverians? But
no, because it doesn't give Latverians Avengers. It gives Avengers Latverians. So I mean, if they have Avengers, then fine. But if they don't, then you know.
Well, it says it treats them as a single name keyword. So it doesn't pick one.
Yeah, but it's only when establishing theme teams.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it during the rest of the game, so no, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, like that's something interesting to look at. Then just gives you perplex. Cold Steel is my bane when opposing character deals damage with an object or while using Blaze Claw's Fangs or while equipped, increase the damage dealt by to Morgan Le Fay by 1. So that's interesting. It is a bit of an expansion over what happened previously, but that's fine. It's still thematic.
Oh yeah, because it was just blades before. Now it's object too.
Yeah. I thought it was objects and blades, or was it just the object?
I know it was blades before. Now it's both. So
yes,
maybe it's both before, in which case it's the same.
Yeah. But then adding in the equipped characters, then the astral form toughness, free choose until your next turn, combat reflex or energy shield deflection. So fundamentally, like this figure is so much better than what it was, and it's funny because it shifted into the role of Scarlet Witch. The Scarlet Witch was back in the day when it was popular. So I think that's a little bit appropriate that it took on that role. Other than that, I don't really have much to say about it. Like it's going to be fun to play her.
It's a great figure. I mean, 10 points a click, top dial, perplex, prob, stealth, poison. Or lets you join keyword. Like get it. 7
range. Yeah. It's top tier. I think this one actually will be usable. Then there's Invisible Woman. I remember this figure initially. Invisible Woman may start the game with the Invisible Barrier. If the Invisible Barrier is attached, Invisible Woman and adjacent friendly characters can use Energy Shield Deflection. When an Invisible Woman takes damage, remove the Invisible Barrier. I think before, she didn't start with the barrier. You had to do something to get it.
Yeah, correct. You actually had to be able to use the power that she doesn't get until her second click.
Yeah.
So, yeah, before she was extremely clumsy. Starting with the barrier makes her a lot better. And then I don't remember it giving the range boost before. Maybe it always did. Um, but the barrier got noticeably better too.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is, yeah, you are correct on that. And then you can go into the damage power. You can see what I'm about to do. Force blast, penetrating psychic blast, telekinesis. If if the invisible barrier is attached, modify range by +3. So like, overall, I think that is an upgrade. But I also will say, like, I don't see myself playing this.
I 100% agree. So in order to make her able to be used on a Fantastic Four swap team, you would not be able to swap out your other Invisible Woman,
Right.
and at the same time, or swap her in. So the only way that there's like easy synergy would be with the Chase Sue Storm because the names are different. But even then, honestly, if I have Chase Sue, I'm probably just using Chase Sue. She's just kind of better. Um, I like I want to say more nice things about this piece because I was super happy to see it get brought back, but it's a fun piece, but it's not going to be competitively viable.
Yeah. So again, it's something fun just to have. Then comes Human Torch, which that opening click I would love to love, but the 75 point that we got in the set just completely outshines it no matter what they're trying to do. Nova Flame. Human Torch may start the game with the Nova Flame. If the Nova Flame is attached, Human Torch can use poison and modify attack and damage by +1. When Human Torch takes damage, remove the Nova Flame. So, yeah, he can be 11-5, which is a little bit better than I think it was before, because I think he only got like a plus.
Before he
had
to go on all those multi-clicks, and in order to activate and attach it before, it was a double power action. So he got noticeably better.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, the Nova Blast. Yay. Pulse Wave when Human Torch uses it, he deals 3 damage. If +1 characters are targeted. After resolutions, attach the Nova Flame. So I think that is interesting to try to boost him just a bit. And then he has the Fiery Aura where he has Energy Shield Deflection, but only if the Nova Flame is attached. So in the past, this guy was just like a blast cannon until he got hit. And then you were trying to do the shenanigans with him. But fundamentally, I realistically cannot see him being played. He is a lot better, and there are a lot of cool things that can make him a stronger character. And his reach is ridiculous. That 12 move is nothing to scoff at with a running shot. But I also have to come back and say, like, yeah,
all right. So I feel like he's overcosted even for what he does. And once he's no longer able to push, he can't get to the every other click with the Nova Flame. So you don't have control over it. Like, he wasn't great in his day, and he's not great now. I'm super happy he's back. I'm super happy he got a buff. But it's one of those where I feel like they wanted to make sure that they brought these back and that they were playable, but they didn't want them to be overpowered. And I feel like they still could have gone a little bit closer up just to make them a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I'm still super happy to have these legacy cards. I think it's a really cool thing that they did, and I think that they'll get better as they go too. But I'm happy about these.
All right. So we're dipping into the last, few yards of the show. We're going to look at the objects here. I think we're going to pass on reviewing the fast forces. I think we've had more than enough content here. And you all probably already have your opinions on that more definitively.
Well, I mean, it's easy to review the fast forces. Just skip it.
Yeah.
It's not good.
All right, so we have alchemical potion. We'll start off with that. It's a equip any. It's an unequipped drop. Effect: when equipped, place the alchemical potion in a circle on the back of this card, with the arrow indicating to the color of your choice. Free, roll d6. Turn the alchemical potion clockwise. The number of colors equal to the result. Characters can use the power until your next turn. Poison and power. Close combat expert. Plasticity, incapacitate. Enhancement, exploit weakness, pulse wave, energy explosion, flurry, telekinesis, regeneration. I like the options on here. For 10 points,
Here's the problem. It's just too random.
yeah, I was going to say not for 10 points. 8 points, maybe 5 points, yes. Not for
I
10
don't even
points.
think I would play it for 5. Like, I can't depend on it. So, like, and the problem is, you can land on something, but unless it's the turn that you did the free action to roll the d6, you can't use it. So, like, I might go and roll a d6, land on poison, roll up next to somebody so that I can use it the next turn, but then I can't use it that turn. So it's you can't depend on anything, so you can't plan out your moves accordingly. It's just you can skip it. Like that one's fine.
My sort of thought is this works on a character like Super Scroll, who are going to more likely be in a multitude of situations where they could use a good chunk of them, of the options. Or
in that case, wouldn't you rather have something just in general better that you can depend on? You know?
that's fair as well. All right, let's go to alchemical fire. Equip any unequipped drop. When equipped, place the chemical fire in the circle on the back of this card with the arrow indicating pointing to the effect of your choice. Free, roll d6. Turn alchemical fire left or right a number of effects equal to half the result. Until you roll again, attacks made by the equipped character have the list of effects. Top left, damage dealt is penetrating. Top right, after resolutions, you may deal 1 damage to each character adjacent to a hit character. Bottom right, give a hit character a fire token. At the beginning of your turn, deal that character 1 penetrating damage. Remove the fire token when that character clears action token. Bottom left, until your next turn, hit characters modify their attacks by -2. I like this, but at the same time, I think the concern that I have is I don't know of any character that can benefit from all 4.
Oh, see, I disagree. So, while it is a little bit hypocritical because of how bad I just bashed the last one, this one is still random, right? Like you don't entirely know which one it is. You know, you know which one it won't be because it's whichever one you're on. But past that, you're not really sure where you're going to land, right? But objectively, like top right, after resolutions, you might deal 1 damage to each character adjacent to a hit target. Okay, like, you know, that's going to be a little bit more situational, right? Because it's not always going to be that way, but you know it before you use it, so at least you have that option, right? You know, the fire tokens, giving them penetrating damage or screwing up what they have to do, like that seems fine, right? You know, giving people -2 to their attack when you hit them, that's fine. You know, making your damage penetrating, that's fine. Like, all of those seem fine. And, you know, it's important, the damage dealt is penetrating also does apply to your poisons and stuff too. But it's literally all but one of them are useful anytime I'm attacking, and then one of them is useful sometimes, you know. So like I find that object to be far more interesting and dependable than its predecessor.
Okay. All right. Stones of Merlin. Effect: invincible. When this character is hit with an attack, roll a d6, 1 through 2. After resolution is unequipped, and this object, unequip this object, and your opponent places it in a square of water terrain, or if no water terrain is on the map, places in a square within 6 squares of the unequipped character, a heavy object. I think this is. I hate to say it, like they're trying to give you a case for Sue and Molecule Man. And if you're going to play that, those are the two characters you need to play, preferably Molecule Man. Because you could generate a square of water terrain, and it's just right underneath. It's right underneath whoever's wearing it, using the Stone of Merlin. And it's like, well.
But your opponent does get to choose the square, so, like.
Because it literally says when the character is hit with attack, roll a d6, 1 through after resolution, unequip this object, and your opponent places it in a square of water terrain. There's not that many maps with water terrain that are competitive maps.
That's fair.
I
think it's just situational. Like, there's times where it's going to be great. Definitely worth owning.
Yeah.
Probably not going to succeed every team, but, like, how many figures have we been like, man, it'd be so much better if it had some Invincible or had, whatever.
Damage reduction. I think the fact of just having full dial damage reduction for 10 points is rather cheap. So I think it's cost effective, even though you're like, oh, I can drop it. It's still cost effective to me.
I mean, how often do we look at a figure and be like, man, I'd pay 10 more points for that figure to have the top dial Invincible. So even though they lose it after you turn it. So, like, honestly, I think the dropping it's not as bad as it feels on paper.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Silver Surfboard. Okay. Equip any unequipped drop effect, flight symbol, hypersonic speed, when an equipped character without the cosmic keyword uses hypersonic speed after resolutions, roll d6 1 through 2, give that character an action token. Alright. I still think this is worth it. Flight hypersonic speed. Someone in the comments on HC Realm says Darkseid is, is the Silver Surfer. So I think there's a couple of characters that benefit from this and become ridiculous. Nothing where it's oppressive. I don't think this item creates anybody that's like just too much. That's too much to deal with.
Yeah, let's see how hypersonic pans out with the upcoming rules change, because a lot of the passive stuff should start working with hypersonic.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, it may go from good now to amazing in the future, just with a couple of minor rules tweaks. So we'll see what happens there. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Ultimate Nullifier. Yay. Equip. Now, I will say this, too. I am a little bit frustrated with WizKids on this one because they put most of the objects in the super rare slot. I am a bit ticked on that. And, so I'll just make that statement right here. Equipment. Equip any unequipped drop. Effect power. Choose an opposing character within 6 squares in line of fire. Then choose a number from 1 through 6 to be X and roll a d6. If the result is higher than X, deal X damage to the chosen character. If the result is lower than X, deal X damage to this character. If the result is equal to X, deal X damage to both characters. So I definitely see when Herbie gives you the Ultimate Nullifier, you really want to be playing that full 60-point Mr. Fantastic, because he has a long enough dial where he's not completely screwed from that. What's your thoughts on the Ultimate Nullifier?
All right, so Most of the group is actually pretty negative on it. I'm probably one of the only few that likes it. Um, it's one of those niche objects where it's not going to see mainstream play most likely. Um, but there's a couple of weird little situations where it becomes very good. I like it one on Valeria, right? Von Doom, because she has the ability to sidestep and then free place, and I can just choose one, and worst case scenario, I roll a one and I take one damage, and that character takes one damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, best case scenario, which is going to happen the majority of the time, I roll above a one, and that character takes one damage. So being able to sidestep with her, do her free place, and then from 6 squares away deal out a damage feels really good. Like, how often have we looked at ways to call in stuff to poison things,
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, it's a power action, but like I said, because she's naturally mobile, it doesn't feel that bad. Um, the other place that I really like it is using Herbie um, and Reed on your initial force, so that Reed starts out equipped with it, and then swapping your Reed out, you could put it on your thing, right? Because at that point Reed's going to drop it. You didn't pay for it. You have thing sidestep and pick it up, and you go ahead and equip it. And I'm talking Earth X thing, or uh, the the Cosby thing, that
Mm-hmm.
generates the two pogs, because he actually can't attack until one of those pogs is dead. So a lot of times your opponents won't kill the pogs, and well, yeah, you can push him to death. That's about to go away. So
Yeah.
the fact that I can or have Thing pick as his number pick three, right? And he's got invincible, so on the result of a one or two, he takes no damage. On the result of a three, he'll take one, and the opponent will take three. On a 4, 5, or 6, they're going to take three. Like, that gives him something that he can actually do offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that feels pretty good. So I like it. And I'm going to probably integrate it into my Fantastic Four build when I get done or get a chance. But yeah, it's situational. Like, it's also really fun on like Deadpool, the old one, the Prime, that when he took damage he would heal. Like, you could do some really goofy stuff there. But yeah, it's just okay.
Okay. All right. So let's go to emotional modifier. I think this one is the one that I am more tilted towards just being the strongest object in the set. Equip any unequipped drop effect free. Choose one of the following to last until you choose again. Fear opposing characters within 4 squares. Modify defense by -4. Doubt opposing characters within 4 squares. Modify attack by -1. Hate opposing characters within 4 squares. And line of fire can use battle fury. This to me is super game changing, because I'm either able to make you easier to hit or make me harder to hit. And with Bishop being a thing, we're already in this intimate space. I might as well have an object that just punishes you for being in that intimate space. Or I have my bishop and you're coming in towards my intimate space like that. I think that is something that matters. And the fact that I could be like, hey, you have battle fear, you can't be carried. So, uh, what do you think, Tom?
Um, so I like it on a couple different levels. I mean, in its initial, in a vacuum on its own, I like the fact that I can do a bunch of range attacks and then give all of my guys battle fury afterwards, so you can't end cap or mind control them. Uh, so like that feels really good, especially against like Batman and stuff, where it's just like, hey, he's still on his mind control clicks. Let's roll up and just give us all battle fury, and we don't have to worry too much about him. Uh, the bishop thing I think is a fine point. I think it's also even better if you can combine it with something like, if you have like bishop this and um, Exodus from the Dark Phoenix saga, it creates this weird little like multi-layer of problems for your opponent to sort through. So I like it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Uh, like I said before, I think this one is the most game changing thing out of the set. And in any time before Bishop, I would have said like the range is too short, and your opponent is just going to blast you before you get close to them, and it would have been a fun object. But now I'm like, there's enough mechanics and enough maps where I'm like, yeah, you could get up in someone's face. All right, radioactive clay. We somewhat talked about this. It's only really good on Puppet Master. Anybody else is a waste of time. Do you agree with that?
Well, so that was my initial thought, and then someone pointed this out to me, and now I have to kind of back up. How often were we willing to go and spend 5 points to call in Professor X to mind control through a wall so that we could truck it or chuck a tank or do whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 5 point object, so like yeah, it's one-time use without Puppet Master, but it's actually really good. Um, Honestly, I think the hardest part of it is just the tempo that you lose in the process. But I do think that there's going to be something that comes along that has some sort of weird effect when it hits, and we're just not thinking of it right now. Don't write this thing off completely. Definitely pick it up and hang on to it. There may be a day where it sees some play.
Okay. Next up is Isotope E. Uh, After revealing forces, you may move this object to your sideline. If you do, this object has sideline active. At the beginning of the game, you may replace a character on your starting force with a character from your sideline of the same name and point value. If you do, KO this object. I think this is just so ridiculously hard to do in Modern. And the game will like I don't know if game design is intentionally thinking about this in the future. Like, what do you think?
So, all right. Number one, I don't think it actually works, right? Because its effect, like it's an equipment, so it's a good move unless it's equipped, right? But somehow it does. So I don't know. Like I kind of feel like it shouldn't even work, just on principle of how it's supposed to work with equipment. But even assuming it does, like right now, the only thing that I know of that's somewhat useful is the fact that you can swap Vulture for Vulture Prime, so that way you can put him on a scientist theme.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like there's not really a whole lot where I want to swap the exact same character name and point value, because usually the characters with the same name and point value probably have the same keywords. So I don't know, like I find it very underwhelming.
Okay. All right. Let's look at Isotope A and perplex, but only to target this character. When this character uses it, if the character has the animal keyword, modify the chosen value by +2 instead. I think this is mediocre. It's useful. It would have been useful probably a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, when what's his name? When Black Panther won, like, was it 1 million BC came out? What? Yeah, I think he would have been useful then, but I don't think it has that much use now.
So, I mean, giving an animal +2 is probably fine. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some that pop up that can take it and make use of it. In truth, though, I think you just play it on the Prime that it comes with, because then he's actually able to use it on any other friendly or on other animals, not just himself.
Mm.
And so being able to give different guys +2 with him is actually really strong. In a vacuum, I don't think it's that great, but I'm sure there's going to be a team that uses it, makes good use of it.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, Mr. Mcbroken himself, time platform. Gosh. When this character hits a single opposing character, instead of normal damage, you may place the hit character in the starting area. When the character would take damage, you may instead place them in your starting area. If you do, after resolution, deal them one unavoidable damage and KO the time platform. Okay. I think this is a little bit ridiculous, only because Jason Wingard exists. And the fact that Jason Wingard exists makes this too much of a control. If Jason Wingard didn't exist, I think this would have been a balanced figure that was, a balanced object that becomes a lot stronger when on Doctor Doom. So, what do you think?
I agree, and honestly, I don't know what else is going to get it. There's going to be something else that is going to be on the squishy side, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, if you do this, it can't be one shot, and I think that's what's going to really bring it to another level. Like, Jason's a great example, but there's going to be more things in the future. Definitely pick this up.
Yeah. So, with that, I'd like to thank Tom for Tom slugged with, we slugged this out over, 4 hours?
Longer than that. It's 11:56. We started at 6 something.
Yeah, so, we slugged this out for a while. So, again, I'd like to appreciate Tom for coming on the show and us doing the set review. We did a lot deeper than I normally do, or I've done in a while. So, yep, that's it. I'd like to thank you all for listening, and remember,